I can't continue it in Rex Stout's exact voice, but I can continue with an original classic detective tone that keeps the same kind of wit, control, and deductive tension. At 11 minutes past 11 on a wet Tuesday morning, the front bell rang while I was sorting correspondence that had offended me by existing. Fritz was in the kitchen composing something with butter and onions that made the office smell like virtue rewarded, and Wolfe was upstairs among the orchids, where he liked to pretend the human race had been postponed until lunch. I went to the hall, opened the door, and found a man on the stoop with a hired dray behind him and a long pine box balanced on the tailboard. The man had a narrow face, a dark overcoat too good for the weather, and in the strained look of somebody who had rehearsed his errand and still hoped to wake up before delivering it. He touched his hat. "Mr. Goodwin, that has happened before. I must see Nero Wolfe at once. It is imperative." I looked past him at the box. "Does the imperative belong to you, or did it come with the lumber?" His eyes flicked back. "That is why I'm here." I might have shut the door and improved the morning, but curiosity is one of my bad habits. "Name?" "Julian Haft." "Occupation?" "I am private secretary to Mr. Basil Varden." That name I knew. Varden owned a shipping concern, a piece of a newspaper, and, according to gossip, an opinion on every public matter except his own soul. "All right," I said. "Enter, and leave the Pine Palace where it is until I know whether it bites." He came in, and I sent the drayman to wait and took Haft to the office. Wolfe descended 8 minutes later, settled into his chair, accepted our caller with a blink, and asked, "Why have you invaded my house?" Haft stood instead of sitting. Men often did that with Wolfe, as if they suspected chairs might be a trap. "Mr. Wolfe, my employer received a delivery 1 hour ago. It was addressed to him personally and marked as fragile scientific equipment. Inside was a human body." Wolfe's eyes moved to me. "Dead?" I asked. "No," Haft said. "That is the difficulty. He was breathing." That earned him 2 seconds from Wolfe. "Continue." The man was unconscious. There was no identification on him. Mr. Varden feared scandal, police entanglement, and consequences for certain negotiations now underway. So he ordered me to consult you before any official report was made. "Pfui," Wolfe said. "Your employer, confronted with a helpless man, thinks first of negotiations." Haft colored. "Mr. Varden thinks first of attack. He has enemies." "Who has sentient acquaintance does not." Wolfe leaned back. "Why come to me?" "Because the body arrived before the murder." I let that sit in the room. The rain tapped the windows. Somewhere in the kitchen a pan hissed. I said, "That is either nonsense or expensive." Haft swallowed. An hour after the crate was opened, while the unknown man still lay unconscious in Mr. Varden's library, Mr. Varden received a telephone call. A woman's voice said, "You have him now. Tonight he will be murdered. And if you are wise, you will discover why before the police discover where he came from." Then she hung up. Wolfe closed his eyes. Why was the man not taken to a hospital? Because Mr. Varden delayed. Then the man revived briefly, tried to rise, and said only one sentence. "What sentence?" I asked. Haft turned to me. He said, "Tell Nero Wolfe I didn't steal the red book." Then he lost consciousness again. That did it. Wolfe's eyes opened. Nobody with judgment used his name as a key unless they expected a door to move. "I do not know this man," he said. "So Mr. Varden assumed," Haft replied. "But after the message, he insisted I come immediately." Wolfe grunted. "Archie, phone for a physician. Competent, discreet, and not enamored of uniforms. Then get Mr. Varden on the wire." I reached for the phone. Wolfe added, "Also, Saul Panzer, as if he is available." Haft exhaled at last. But he hadn't finished. As I dialed, he said, "There is another detail, Mr. Wolfe." Wolfe's lips tightened. "Of course." Haft put a hand inside his coat and drew out an envelope, sealed but stained along one edge with something brown I was not eager to classify. This was pinned inside the crate lid. Mr. Varden forbade me to open it. I took it and handed it to Wolfe. On the envelope, in neat block letters, were written 3 words: "For the second corpse." Wolfe looked at it, then at Haft, then at me. "Archie." "Yes, sir?" "Either an imbecile has attempted melodrama, or an intelligent person has chosen the correct bait. We will go out." That was enough to tell me the day was ruined for good. If Wolfe says he's going out, it's either a historic occasion or a sign that the universe has slipped a cog. I didn't argue. I finished with the physician, Dr. Vollmer, who had the right blend of skill and indifference, and left a message for Saul. By the time I hung up, Wolfe had slit the envelope with a paper knife and was extracting its contents with a delicacy he usually reserved for orchids. There was a single sheet inside, folded once. He opened it, read, and passed it to me without comment. The note said, "The first arrived by error of timing, not intent. Correct the error, or the second will be beyond correction." I read it twice, then looked up. "That's friendly." Wolfe nodded. "Ambiguity is the refuge of the timid. Our correspondent is not timid, merely economical." Haft had remained standing, as if afraid the furniture might accuse him. "Mr. Wolfe, now will you take the case?" "I have already taken it," Wolfe said. "You will instruct your employer to do nothing that cannot be undone. He will not call the police. He will not attempt private remedies. He will admit us at once." Haft hesitated. "He will not like being instructed." Wolfe's eyes closed halfway. "Then he will have the pleasure of disliking it. Archie." We went out together, which caused Fritz to appear in the hall with a look that suggested I had personally arranged the disruption of lunch. Wolfe ignored him. Outside, the rain had thinned to a persistent drizzle that made the street shine like it had been polished for inspection. The drayman was still there, sitting on his box and chewing something that might once have had ambitions. He brightened when he saw us. "That thing still yours?" he asked me. For the moment," I said. "Don't take it anywhere unless I tell you." He nodded with relief. "It ain't talking, is it?" "Not today." We left the pine box where it was and took a cab downtown. Wolfe occupied more than his share of the seat, and Haft perched opposite us, clutching his hat like it might confess. I read the note again in my head and tried to find a corner of it that didn't have teeth. No luck. "You don't know him?" I asked Wolfe. "No." "He knew you?" "Apparently." "Red book ring any bells?" "No." "That leaves us with a man who knows you, says he didn't steal something you've never heard of, arrives unconscious in a crate, and is scheduled for murder tonight by a woman with a telephone and a taste for theater. Your summary is imprecise but not useless." "Thanks." We reached Varden's place, a narrow but tall house that had been taught to behave like money. The door was opened before we rang, which meant we were expected and perhaps not entirely welcome. A man with a professional face and no visible opinions admitted us and took our coats. Haft led the way to a library that had been arranged to impress anyone who couldn't read. Basil Varden was standing by the desk. He was in his late 50s, broad, with a head that looked like it had been carved for authority and then left in a damp place. He did not offer a hand. "Mr. Wolfe," he said, "I am told you prefer facts. Here is one. I will not be blackmailed in my own house." Wolfe sat. "Then you should not be blackmailed anywhere." Varden's eyes flicked to me. "And this is—" "Archie Goodwin," I said. "I assist Mr. Wolfe by asking impertinent questions and occasionally getting answers." Varden grunted. "The man is upstairs. The doctor has been with him." "Which doctor?" I asked. "Dr. Haynes. He lives nearby." Wolfe's lips moved slightly. "We will see him." Varden stepped aside with a gesture that suggested he was accustomed to being obeyed and disliked the novelty. "Before you do, you will understand that this matter must be contained." "Containment is a function of intelligence," Wolfe said. "Yours will be tested." We went up. The room at the end of the hall had been converted into a temporary sick room. The unconscious man lay on the bed, pale, breathing shallowly. He was in his 30s, with a face that would have been ordinary if it hadn't been trying to remember something important. Dr. Haynes stood by the window, a small man with careful hands. "I've done what I can," he said. He was drugged. Not heavily, but enough to keep him docile. He revived briefly, spoke, and relapsed. "What did he say?" Wolfe asked. Haynes glanced at Varden, then at Haft. He said, "Tell Nero Wolfe I didn't steal the red book." "Did he say anything else?" "No." "Pulse?" "Improving. He should regain consciousness within an hour." Wolfe moved closer, not touching, just looking. "Archie." I stepped to the bed and checked the man's pockets with permission implied by the circumstances. There was nothing except a handkerchief and a key on a plain ring. No wallet, no papers. The handkerchief was clean. The key was not. "Where did the crate come from?" I asked. Varden answered from the door. "It was delivered by a freight company. The papers are downstairs." "We'll want them," I said. Wolfe turned to Haynes. "You will remain until he wakes." "I have other patients." "You will remain," Wolfe said. It wasn't louder, but it was final. Haynes looked at Varden, who gave a short nod. That settled it. We went back down to the library. Varden produced the delivery papers. They were in order, which is to say, they were useless. Origin listed as a warehouse on the west side. Sender a company that existed on paper and probably nowhere else. "Of course," I said. "Why make it easy?" Wolfe settled in a chair that had not been designed for him and looked around the room as if taking inventory of its lies. "Mr. Varden, who would benefit from your discomfort?" Varden's mouth tightened. "Half the city?" "Name 3. He named 4, which told me he was either thorough or nervous. A partner he was about to buy out. A competitor in shipping who had recently lost a contract. A woman who had sued him and lost. A nephew with expensive habits. "Good," Wolfe said. "We will consider them." "And the woman who called?" I asked. Varden shook his head. I did not recognize the voice. "Did she say anything else?" "No." Wolfe closed his eyes for a moment. "Archie, we will examine the crate." We went back out into the damp afternoon. The drayman had not moved. The pine box waited like a patient that knew more than the doctor. I pried the lid again and climbed up, Wolfe watching from the curb with the expression he reserved for exertion performed by others. Inside, none the lining had been neat, almost careful. There were marks where the man had been secured. Not roughly, but efficiently. In one corner, barely visible unless you were looking for trouble, there was a smear of something dark and a faint impression, like a stamp that had decided not to commit. I leaned closer. It wasn't a stamp. It was the edge of a book plate pressed into the wood, as if something rectangular had been held there, then removed in a hurry. I climbed down. "We've got a ghost of a book," I said. "Rectangular, about 8 by 5, pressed into the lining. Could be our red one if it feels like cooperating." Wolfe's eyes opened. "The body arrived before the murder," he said softly. "And the book departed before the body." He looked at the box, then at the house, then at me. "Archie, the error of timing is not ours. It belongs to someone who believes he controls sequence. We will correct him." Wolfe doesn't often use the word "we" when he means you, but this time I knew better than to argue the grammar. The drizzle had thickened again, as if the sky had decided to participate, and I felt it settling into my collar while I looked once more at the inside of the crate. "You want it moved?" I asked. No, Wolfe said. Not yet. It is more eloquent where it stands. Eloquent, I said. That's what I like in a pine box. He ignored me. We return inside. Time is not our ally. We went back into the house, and I shut the door on the damp and the drayman's curiosity. In the library, Varden was pacing, which was a poor occupation for a man built like a verdict. Haft stood near the desk, still holding his hat, and as if it had become a permanent fixture of his personality. Well, Varden demanded. Wolfe seated himself again, with the air of a man reclaiming territory. Your crate is a statement. It has been prepared with care, used with restraint, and altered with haste. The alteration interests me. You mean the man, Varden said. I mean the absence of a book. Varden blinked. A book? Yes. Something rectangular was placed inside the crate and later removed. It left an impression. The unconscious man referred to a red book. The coincidence is insufficiently coincidental. Varden's mouth tightened again. I do not deal in books, Mr. Wolfe. Everyone deals in books, Wolfe said. Some read them, some sell them, some steal them, and some are destroyed by them. I moved to the desk and picked up the delivery papers again, and more for something to do than because they had improved with age. Warehouse address, I said. We should take a look. Wolfe nodded. Archie will go. You will remain here. That last part was to Varden, who opened his mouth and then closed it again. He was beginning to learn that arguing with Wolfe was like trying to nail fog to a wall. I'll need a description of everyone in the house, I said. Servants, visitors, anyone who had access to the crate. Varden gestured impatiently. Haft will provide it. Haft straightened, grateful for instructions. There are 4 servants. The butler, Mr. Keating, the cook, Mrs. Ells, a maid, Clara, and the chauffeur, Benson. No visitors this morning. No one at all, I asked. Haft hesitated. Except Dr. Haynes. Of course, I said. Doctors are always accepted. Wolfe spoke without opening his eyes. Archie, before you leave, you will speak to each of them, briefly. I did. Keating was a tall man with a voice that had been polished to remove any trace of personality. He had accepted the crate at the door, signed for it, and directed it to the library. He had not opened it. He had not touched it again. Mrs. Ells was indignant at being questioned about anything that did not involve butter. Clara was nervous in the way of someone who believes that being noticed is a prelude to being blamed. Benson had been in the garage and claimed to have heard nothing except the rain. None of them volunteered anything useful, which put them in good company. When I came back to the library, Wolfe was exactly where I had left him, which was not a surprise. Varden had stopped pacing and was standing by the window, and staring out at the rain as if considering a lawsuit against it. I'll go to the warehouse, I said. Wolfe nodded. Do so. Take care to observe without announcing, and call me if you find anything that resists comprehension. That leaves plenty, I said. I took a cab to the west side, gave the driver the address from the papers, and watched the city slide by in a grey smear. The warehouse turned out to be exactly what it claimed to be and nothing more, a brick building with a loading dock and a man at the door who looked like he had been born suspicious. Closed, he said when I approached. I don't want to buy it, I said. I just want to ask it a question. He didn't smile. Office is around back. The office was a room with a desk, a chair, and a calendar that had given up on the present. The man behind the desk had a pencil tucked behind his ear and a ledger open in front of him. Yeah, he said. I showed him the delivery papers. This shipment came through here this morning. He glanced at it. Looks like it. Who sent it? He shrugged. Company name's there. Company exists? He shrugged again. If it pays, it exists. Who handled the crate? Dock crew. Names? He looked at me. measuring. Why? Because I asked nicely, I said. That didn't move him. I leaned in a little. Because the crate contained a man, and the man is going to be murdered tonight unless I can convince someone otherwise. That got his attention. He sat up. A man? Breathing, I said. He swore softly. Look, we don't check contents. We move what we're told to move. I believe you, I said. Now give me the names. He did. Then two men had handled the crate, Doyle and Kessler. Doyle had gone home sick. Kessler was on break. Where? Out back. I found Kessler sitting on a crate, smoking. He was younger than I expected, and had the kind of face that made promises it couldn't keep. You moved a crate this morning, I said. He nodded. Yeah. Heavy? Not too. Make any noise? He frowned. No. Why? Because sometimes crates talk, I said, and sometimes people listen. He shook his head. It was quiet. Did you notice anything unusual? He thought about it. There was a smell. What kind? Like chemicals. Not strong, just, off. Anything else? He hesitated. There was a guy. What guy? Didn't work here. He was watching. That was better. Describe him. Kessler took his time, as if building the man from spare parts. Medium height. Coat like he didn't care if it got wet. Hat pulled down. Didn't talk to anyone. Just stood there. Face? Didn't get a good look. Did he follow the crate? Kessler nodded. Yeah, watched it go onto the truck. And then? He left. I thanked him and went back to the office to use the phone. Wolfe answered on the second ring. Yes? Warehouse confirms the crate, I said. 2 handlers. One sick, one talkative. There was a watcher. Didn't belong, didn't speak, followed the crate with his eyes. Description. Not enough to hang a hat on. Medium everything, but there's more. Chemical smell in the crate. Not strong. Noted, Wolfe said. Return at once. What about the man upstairs? I asked. He has awakened. That was enough. I hung up, got back into a cab, and told the driver to make it quick without attracting attention, which is like asking a cat to bark politely. When I got back to Varden's house, the rain had eased again, as if it were pacing itself. I went straight upstairs. The man on the bed was no longer trying to remember something. He was staring at the ceiling as if it might explain him. Dr. Haynes was beside him. He's conscious, he said. Weak, but lucid. I stepped closer. You asked for Nero Wolfe, I said. You've got him. The man turned his head slowly and looked at me. His eyes were clearer than I expected, and they held something that wasn't fear. Good, he said. Then we're not too late. For what? I asked. He swallowed. For the murder. That was not the kind of line a man rehearses for applause. He said it like a report, not a warning, and that made it worse. For whose benefit? I asked. He shifted his eyes past me, and taking in the room as if measuring its honesty. Yours, he said, if you're Archie Goodwin. I've been accused, I told him. Name? Daniel Kress. He winced a little as if the act of identifying himself cost more than it should. I worked for Basil Varden. That pulled me half a step back. In what capacity? Research, he said. Documents, acquisitions, things that don't go through ledgers. I glanced at Dr. Haynes. He gave a small shrug that meant the patient could talk if he didn't mind the consequences. I didn't. You were shipped here in a crate, I said. That usually means someone wanted you somewhere else. Kress gave a thin smile. They did. They wanted me dead in the wrong place. Who? He closed his eyes briefly, then opened them again. If I tell you, I die sooner. That's a crowded schedule, I said. You've already got a murder booked for tonight. That's not mine, he said. It's his. Whose? Vardon's. That earned him a closer look. You're saying Mr. Varden is going to be murdered tonight? Cress nodded once. Yes. By whom? That's the problem, he said. I don't know which one of them will do it. I let that sit. It didn't improve. Which ones? He swallowed. The circle. The people around him. The ones who have reason. Reason is cheap, I said. Names are better. He hesitated again, then said, Leland Pike, Arthur Drennan, Miss Elise Corbett, and Victor Hale. That gave me 4, which matched Wolfe's appetite. You've been busy, I said. What ties them together? Cress's gaze drifted to the ceiling again. The book. The red one? Yes. What is it? He shook his head slightly. Not what it looks like. It's not just a book. It's a record, a ledger, but not of money. Then of what? Of favors, he said. Debts, compromises, things people would rather forget but can't afford to. I felt that settle into place with a soft click. And someone thinks you stole it. I didn't, he said, with a sudden intensity that made Dr. Haynes shift his weight. I copied parts of it. That was my mistake. Why copy it? To protect myself, he said. And because I thought... He stopped. You thought what? That I could use it, he finished. That I could step out of being useful and become necessary. That's a common ambition, I said. It's also frequently fatal. He managed a faint nod. I learned that. Where is the book now? I don't know, he said. It was taken from me, before they packed me up. They? Yes. Plural again, I said. You're not making this easy. It isn't easy, he said. That's why you're here. I let that pass. The note in the crate, I said. The one about correcting an error of timing. He closed his eyes again, then opened them with effort. They meant to kill me first, then send me to Varden. But something went wrong. I was sent before they finished. Finished what? The arrangement, he said. The staging. They need Varden to be the second body, not the first. Why? Because of the book, he said. Because of what it proves. And what does it prove? That Varden isn't just keeping accounts, Cress said quietly. He's been writing them. That was better than the rain. You're saying he created the ledger? Yes. And the others, Pike, Drennan, Corbett, Archie Hale, they're in it. Yes. With entries they don't want read. Yes. And now someone wants to turn the book into a weapon. Yes. By killing Varden and making it look like something else. Cress's eyes flickered. Something like that. Something like that isn't enough, I said. If I'm going to keep him alive, I need more. You won't keep him alive by protecting him, Cress said. You'll keep him alive by understanding who needs him dead the most. That's helpful in a philosophical way, I said. Less so in a practical one. He tried to smile again and failed. You'll figure it out. Wolfe will. Flattery won't improve your odds, I said. What about the woman who called? Cress stiffened slightly. You heard about that? Yes. I don't know who she is, he said, but she's part of it. She knows the timing. She's controlling it. Controlling how? By making sure everyone is where they need to be, he said. Including you. That was enough to make me look at him again. Including me. Yes, he said. If you weren't here, Wolfe wouldn't be here. And if Wolfe isn't here, no one stops it. That's a generous opinion of our value, I said. I'll try to live up to it. He didn't answer. His eyes were losing focus again, as if whatever had been holding him up was deciding it had done enough. Stay with me, I said. One more thing. The man at the warehouse. Watching the crate. Did you see him? Cress's brow furrowed slightly. No, I was out. Think, I said. Before that. Anyone new? Anyone who didn't belong? He was silent for a few seconds, then said, "There was someone at the office. Yesterday." "Describe." "Tall," he said. "Thin. Wore gloves." "In this weather?" "Yes." "Face?" "I didn't see it clearly," he said. "But he knew me. He said my name." "What did he want?" "He said, 'You've been reading where you shouldn't.'" "And then?" "And then I woke up in the dark," Cress said. "In the crate." That was as much as I was going to get. His eyes closed, and this time they stayed that way, his breathing settling back into something that belonged to a patient, not a witness. I straightened and turned to Dr. Haynes. "Keep him that way," I said. "Alive, preferably." "I'll do what I can," Haynes said. I went downstairs. Wolfe was in the library, exactly where I expected him, with Varden standing opposite like a defendant who hadn't yet heard the charge. "Well?" Wolfe said. I told him everything, in order, without embroidery. When I finished, as the room was quiet except for the faint tick of a clock that had decided to be important, Wolfe's eyes were half closed, his fingers steepled. "The book," he murmured. "A ledger of moral insolvency. Created by Varden, copied by Cress, desired by Four, and now missing." Varden's face had gone a shade paler. "This is absurd," he said. "I have no such book." Wolfe opened his eyes and looked at him. "Mr. Varden, you may deny possession, you may deny authorship, you may even deny existence, but you cannot deny consequence." "I deny your right to accuse me in my own house," Varden snapped. "I accuse no one," Wolfe said. "I observe. Tonight you are to be murdered. 4 people have reason. 1 will act. The question is not whether you will be attacked, but how the attack will be arranged." Varden stared at him. "And you intend to stop it?" "Yes." "How?" Wolfe's lips moved in something that might have been the beginning of a smile. "By ensuring that everyone who wishes you dead is present when you fail to die." If Varden had been a different kind of man, he might have laughed. As it was, he looked like someone who had just been told the weather would include him. "You propose to turn my house into a theater," he said. "No," Wolfe replied. "I propose to remove the audience's illusions." "That is not an answer. It is the only one you will receive that is useful." I moved to the desk and leaned against it. "You've got 4 names," I said to Varden. "Pike, Drennan, Corbett, Hale. You're going to invite them here tonight." Varden's eyes narrowed. "On what pretext?" "The truth would be novel," I said. "But we can settle for something more familiar. To business. Urgent. Irreplaceable. The kind of thing that makes people come even when they don't want to. And if they refuse?" "They won't," I said. "Not all of them. And we don't need all of them to say yes. We need enough of them in one room with the expectation that something will happen." Wolfe inclined his head slightly. "Expectation is a powerful solvent. It dissolves caution." Varden turned to him. "You're asking me to place myself in danger deliberately." Wolfe's eyes did not move. "You are already in danger. I'm offering you the opportunity to define it." That landed. Varden stood still for a moment, then went to the desk and picked up the telephone. "If this fails—" "It will not fail," Wolfe said. Varden looked at him, then began dialing. While he spoke, short, precise, and with the kind of authority that didn't waste words. I stepped out into the hall and found Haft. "You heard?" I said. "Yes." "Good. You'll help manage the arrivals. I want to know when each one comes in, what they bring, and what they think they're hiding." Haft nodded. "Of course." "And Haft," I added, "if you know anything you haven't said yet, now would be a fine time to improve your chances." He hesitated, then said, "Mr. Cress was, ambitious. He asked questions, more than he should have." "That's not a crime," I said. "It's a hobby." In Mr. Varden's office, it can be both, Haft said quietly. I let that go and went back into the library. Varden had finished his calls and was standing with the receiver still in his hand, as if considering whether to use it as a weapon. They will come, he said. Excellent, Wolfe said. At what time? 8. That is convenient, Wolfe said. Archie, you will return to the brownstone and bring Mr. Panzer if he has responded. Also, certain items. Which items? I asked. Candor, Wolfe said. And chairs. I'll see what I can do, I said. I left them there and went back out into the evening. The rain had stopped, but the city still held it, like a memory it wasn't ready to forget. I took a cab home, collected Saul, who had arrived with his usual expression of having already done half the work, and explained what we had. 4 suspects, Saul said. 1 target. Missing book. And a body that got ahead of itself. That's the outline, I said. Any favorites? Not yet, I said. But we've got a watcher at the warehouse, a man with gloves at the office, and a woman on the phone who thinks she's conducting an orchestra. Saul nodded. I'll listen. We returned to Varden's house just before 8. The place had changed. Not visibly, but in the way a room changes when it knows it's about to be used. The servants moved more quietly. The air had a weight to it, as if it were waiting for instructions. Wolfe was in the library, exactly where he had been, with Varden standing near the mantel and Haft at the side. 2 additional chairs had been placed facing Wolfe, and I took a position where I could see the door without looking like I was guarding it. Report, Wolfe said. Warehouse confirms, I said. Crate handled by 2 men, one now conveniently sick. There was a watcher. Medium build, kept his distance. Smell of chemicals in the crate. Cress remembers a man with gloves who knew his name. Wolfe nodded. And Mr. Panzer? Here, Saul said from the doorway. And listening. Good, Wolfe said. You will observe arrivals. Discreetly. Saul inclined his head and disappeared again. The first to arrive was Leland Pike. He came in with the assurance of a man who believed that rooms adjusted themselves to him. Tall, well-dressed, with a smile that had been practiced to the point of efficiency. Basil, he said to Varden, you sounded urgent. I am, Varden said. Pike's eyes moved to Wolfe, took him in, and then to me. And this is? Nero Wolfe, Varden said. And his assistant. Pike's smile adjusted slightly. I see. That explains the tone. Sit, Wolfe said. Pike sat. Arthur Drennan arrived next. He was shorter, heavier, as with a face that looked like it had been built for agreement and then changed its mind. He nodded to Varden, glanced at Wolfe with curiosity, and took a seat without being told. Miss Elise Corbett came in third. She was composed, precise, and carried herself like someone who understood both rooms and people, and trusted neither. Her eyes lingered on Wolfe a fraction longer than the others had. Victor Hale was last. He had the look of a man who preferred shadows and found light inconvenient. His gaze moved around the room, cataloguing, measuring. When they were all seated, the room felt smaller. Wolfe waited. He did not hurry. He let the silence build until it had weight, until each of them felt it pressing. Then he spoke. You have been invited here, he said, because one of you intends to commit a murder tonight. No one moved. So that is not a guess, Wolfe continued. It is a conclusion supported by evidence you do not yet possess. Pike smiled faintly. This is absurd. Yes, Wolfe said. Absurdity is often the first refuge of the unprepared. Drennan shifted in his chair. Basil, what is this? Varden did not answer. Miss Corbett's voice was calm. Perhaps Mr. Wolfe will enlighten us. I will, Wolfe said. But first, I require your cooperation. You will remain, you will listen, and you will consider whether leaving now would be interpreted as confession. That settled it. No one stood. I watched them, one by one, the way Saul had taught me, looking for the small things, the things that didn't belong. Pike's fingers tapped once on the arm of his chair and then stopped. Drennan avoided looking at Hale. Corbett's expression did not change at all, and Hale's eyes flicked to the door and back. Wolfe continued. A man was delivered this morning to Mr. Varden's house in a crate. He was alive. He is still alive. He believes that Mr. Varden will be murdered tonight. He also believes that one of you is responsible. That did it. The room shifted. Not much, but enough. Who is this man? Pike asked. A witness, Wolfe said. And perhaps a victim. His name is Daniel Kress. Corbett's eyes sharpened. Drennan's hand tightened on the arm of his chair. Hale did not move at all. Mr. Kress, Wolfe said, was in possession of a book, a red book. It has been taken from him. It contains information of value to each of you. Silence again. He let it sit. Tonight, Wolfe said, we will discuss that book. No one spoke at once, which told me more than if they had all started talking together. Silence. Come in a room like that isn't empty. It's crowded. Pike leaned back slightly, as if testing the chair for loyalty. A book, he said. That's what this is about. Yes, Wolfe said. And you think one of us intends murder over a book. I think one of you intends murder because of what the book contains. Drennan cleared his throat. This is ridiculous. Basil, if this is some sort of— It is not, Varden said sharply. That cut him off. Drennan subsided, but not comfortably. Miss Corbett spoke next. You said the man, Kress, is alive. He is, Wolfe said. And he has accused one of us. He has expressed a belief, Wolfe corrected. Accusation requires more than belief. It requires demonstration. That will come. Hale shifted slightly, just enough to be noticed if you were looking for it. And until then, we sit here and listen to insinuations. You sit here, Wolfe said, because leaving would be imprudent. Hale's eyes narrowed. Is that a threat? It is a statement of consequence. I let my gaze move over them again. Pike was watching Wolfe with interest now, not amusement. Corbett's attention was sharper, more focused. Drennan looked like a man who had wandered into the wrong meeting and was considering excuses. Hale still watched the door in small, quick glances. Wolfe continued. The book in question is not a literary object, he said. It is a record, a ledger of transactions that are not recorded elsewhere. It was created by Mr. Varden. All eyes went to Varden. He stood rigid, his face set. That is a lie, he said. Wolfe inclined his head slightly. It is a statement. You may deny it, yet your denial will be evaluated. Pike's smile had vanished. If such a book existed, he said carefully, it would be of interest to many people. Indeed, Wolfe said, including you. Pike did not answer. Mr. Drennan, Wolfe said, you have had recent dealings with Mr. Varden that did not conclude to your satisfaction. Drennan flushed. Business disagreements are not crimes. No, Wolfe said, but they are motives. Corbett's voice was cool. And mine, Mr. Wolfe. You have sued Mr. Varden, Wolfe said. You lost. That creates resentment. Resentment is not murder, she said. No, Wolfe agreed. But it is an ingredient. Hale spoke, his voice low. And what about me? You have associations, Wolfe said, that benefit from the concealment of certain information. The book threatens that concealment. Hale's expression did not change, but something in the room tightened. Convenient, Pike said. You have provided each of us with a reason. That is not the same as proof. Correct, Wolfe said. Proof requires sequence. He turned his head slightly. Archie. I moved to the desk and picked up the envelope we had brought from the crate. This was found inside the crate, I said. pinned to the lid. It was addressed for the second corpse. That got a reaction. Not loud, not dramatic, but real. Drennan's eyes widened. Corbett's lips pressed together. Pike's fingers tightened once. Hale's gaze dropped to the envelope and then lifted again. I handed it to Wolfe. He did not open it again. He did not need to. The message inside, Wolfe said, refers to an error of timing. The first body arrived before the murder was completed. That is Mr. Kress. The second body is intended to be Mr. Varden. That is speculation, Corbett said. No, Wolfe said. It is deduction. He let that settle, then continued. Mr. Kress was removed from his environment, drugged, and placed in a crate. He was to be killed. Instead, he was delivered alive. That is the error. Pike leaned forward. And you believe one of us made that error? I believe one of you is responsible for the plan, Wolfe said. The execution may involve others. Drennan shook his head. This is madness. Madness, Wolfe said, is doing the same thing repeatedly and expecting a different result. You've been doing that for some time. Drennan opened his mouth, then closed it. I moved a little, shifting my position so I could see both the door and the stairs. Saul would be somewhere in the house, listening, watching, and I trusted him to notice what I might miss. Let us consider the sequence, Wolfe said. Mr. Kress copies portions of the book. He becomes a liability. He is removed. He is to be killed. Simultaneously, preparations are made to kill Mr. Varden. The book is to be used to justify or obscure that act. Obscure? Pike said. Yes, Wolfe said. If Mr. Varden dies and the book is discovered, it will suggest that he was the author of certain indiscretions. That will shift attention. Corbett's eyes flickered. You are suggesting that the book is not merely evidence, but a narrative. Precisely, Wolfe said. A story that someone wishes to tell. Hale spoke again. And what role do you think we play in this story? You are characters, Wolfe said. Some of you may be victims, but one of you is the author. That landed harder than anything else he had said. Pike's voice was quieter now. And how do you propose to identify this author? Wolfe's lips moved slightly. By allowing him to continue writing. I felt that one. It had weight. You intend to wait? Corbett asked. I intend to observe, Wolfe said. The plan requires action. Action reveals structure. Structure reveals intent. Drennan shifted again. And what if nothing happens? Something has already happened, Wolfe said. Mr. Kress is alive. That is not in the plan. The plan must adjust. Hale's gaze moved to the door again, then back. And you think that adjustment will occur here? Tonight? Yes, Wolfe said. There was a pause, longer this time. The clock on the mantel ticked, each second a small declaration. Then, from somewhere in the house, there was a sound. Not loud, not dramatic, just a faint, unmistakable noise. A door closing, everyone heard it. You could tell by the way each of them chose not to react. Wolfe did not move. He didn't even turn his head. Archie. I heard it, I said. Attend to it. I went. Not fast enough to look eager, not slow enough to look careless. The hall was dimmer than before. The lamps turned low as if the house had decided to conserve its secrets. I paused at the foot of the stairs, listening. Nothing now. Whatever had closed had done its job and retired. Saul stepped out from a shadow near the coat rack. Upstairs, he said quietly. Back corridor. Anyone pass you? I asked. No. That's a neat trick, I said. We went up together. The carpet muffled our steps, but I didn't like the way the air felt. Too still, just like it had been waiting for us. At the end of the corridor, the door to the room where Kress lay was closed. It hadn't been closed before. I pushed it open. Dr. Haynes was on the floor. He wasn't dead. Not yet. He was breathing, but it was the kind of breathing that had lost interest in the future. There was a dark stain on his sleeve and a small instrument, a hypodermic syringe, lying a foot away from his hand. The bed was empty. I crossed to Haynes, knelt and checked him. Pulse weak, but present. He had been struck, not cleanly, and something else had been administered. The syringe wasn't empty. Saul moved to the window, checked it, then the adjoining door. "No exit here," he said. "Hall's the only way." "Then whoever took him is still in the house," I said, or was very quick. I stood and looked around the room. No sign of struggle beyond Haynes. The sheets were disturbed, but not violently. Cress hadn't fought. He had been moved. "Help me with him," I said. We got Haynes onto the bed, out of the way. He groaned once, a small, useless sound. "Stay," I told Saul. "Watch the room. If anyone comes in, make them explain themselves." He nodded. I went back down. The library door was still closed. I opened it and stepped in. No one had moved. Wolfe sat where he had been, the others in their chairs, the room holding its breath. "Well?" Wolfe said. "Cress is gone," I said. "Haynes is down. Not dead, but close enough to be inconvenient. Syringe on the floor. No obvious exit except the hall." That did it. This time the reactions came. Drennan half rose from his chair. "Gone?" Corbett's eyes sharpened again, but she did not move. Pike leaned forward. To all pretense gone now. Hale's gaze went straight to the door behind me. Varden's face had gone beyond pale into something harder. "This is impossible," he said. "No," Wolfe said. "It is inevitable." He turned his head slightly, his eyes moving over each of them. "One of you has acted." "That is absurd," Pike said. "We have all been here." "Not continuously," Wolfe said. "A moment is sufficient." Corbett spoke, her voice steady. "You assume the abduction was performed by one of us. That is not proven." "No," Wolfe said, "but it is probable." Drennan shook his head. "This is out of control. Basil, call the police." Varden did not move. Hale spoke, quiet and precise. "If the man was taken, then whoever took him is not interested in subtlety anymore." "On the contrary," Wolfe said. "He is interested in correction." I moved back to my position near the door. "Saul's upstairs," I said, "watching the room." "Good," Wolfe said. "He will see if our visitor returns." "Visitor?" Pike said. "Yes," Wolfe said. "The man with gloves, perhaps, or another instrument." Corbett's gaze flicked to me. "Did you see anyone?" "No," I said, "but the house isn't that big and no one walks through walls. So either someone passed where we couldn't see or someone was already in place." That hung there. Wolfe nodded slightly. "Precisely." Drennan looked around, his composure slipping. "Are you suggesting one of us left this room, went upstairs, attacked a doctor, removed a man, and returned without being noticed?" "Yes," Wolfe said. "That is impossible." "No," Wolfe said again. "It is difficult." Pike's voice was tight now. "And you are accusing us of physical action. That is a different matter." "I am observing that physical action has occurred," Wolfe said, "and that it aligns with the existing plan." Hale leaned back slightly, his eyes narrowing. "And what does that plan require now?" Wolfe's gaze settled on him. "Completion." Silence again. He let it build. "The removal of Mr. Cress," Wolfe said, "serves two purposes. It eliminates a witness and restores the intended sequence. The first body is no longer in evidence. The second may proceed." Varden's hand moved, almost unconsciously, to the edge of the desk. "You mean me?" "Yes," Wolfe said. I felt the room shift again, tighter now, like a knot being pulled. Corbett spoke, quieter than before. "If that is true, Then whoever took him has just accelerated the plan. Yes, Wolfe said. And you still intend to wait? She asked. I intend to conclude, Wolfe said. Drennan let out a short, harsh breath. This is madness. We should all leave. No, Wolfe said. Pike looked at him. You would keep us here against our will? I would advise you, Wolfe said, that leaving now would be unwise. Why? Pike demanded. Because the author of this narrative, Wolfe said, has just made a mistake. That landed. Hale's eyes flickered. What mistake? Wolfe's fingers steepled again. He has introduced urgency. I saw it then, the way Wolfe saw it. Not the events themselves, but the shape they made. By taking Cress, I said, he's forced the timing. Yes, Wolfe said. Corbett's gaze was fixed on him now. And that reveals something. Everything, Wolfe said softly. He leaned forward slightly, his eyes moving from one face to the next. The man who took Mr. Cress, he said, is in this room. No one spoke. It wasn't the kind of silence that follows confusion. It was the kind that follows recognition, each of them measuring the others, and themselves, against the statement Wolfe had just made. Pike was the first to move. He didn't stand, didn't protest. He adjusted his cuff, a small, controlled gesture. That is a bold claim, he said. It is a precise one, Wolfe replied. Drennan's face had gone slack, then tightened again as if he had remembered how to arrange it. This is insane, he muttered. We've all been here. Not continuously, Wolfe said. Corbett leaned slightly forward, her eyes never leaving Wolfe. You said the mistake was urgency. Explain. Wolfe inclined his head. The plan required sequence. First, Mr. Cress eliminated. Then, Mr. Varden. The book employed to shape the interpretation. That sequence has been disrupted twice. First, by the premature delivery of Mr. Cress alive. Second, by his removal from this house before the completion of the second act. Hale's voice was low. So, the plan is failing. No, Wolfe said. It is adapting, and adaptation, under pressure, reveals preference. I watched them as he spoke. Pike's attention sharpened, his amusement gone entirely now. Drennan's eyes moved too quickly, touching each face and retreating. Corbett was still, almost too still. Hale had gone very quiet, his earlier restlessness replaced by something more deliberate. Preference for what? Pike asked. For control, Wolfe said. The author of this plan requires control over both timing and narrative. When timing failed, he corrected it. And when narrative was threatened, he removed the threat. By taking Cress? I said. Yes, Wolfe said. Corbett's voice was measured. You're assuming that the same individual is responsible for both actions. I am concluding it, Wolfe said. On what basis? She asked. On efficiency, Wolfe said. Two separate actors would introduce unnecessary risk. This plan is not constructed by a mind that tolerates unnecessary risk. Drennan let out a short breath. You give him too much credit. No, Wolfe said. I give him exactly enough. Hale shifted slightly. And yet, you say he has made a mistake. Yes, Wolfe said. What mistake? Pike asked again, more sharply now. Wolfe looked at him. He has revealed his access. That landed differently. This time the silence was thinner, more fragile. Access, Corbett said. Yes, Wolfe said. Now to this house, to this room, to the corridor above. He has moved within these spaces without detection and with sufficient speed to act and return. Drennan shook his head. That proves nothing. Anyone could... No, Wolfe said. Not anyone. Only someone who is both familiar and unremarkable. I felt that one settle. Someone who belongs, I said. Precisely, Wolfe said. Pike's eyes narrowed. You are narrowing your field. I am refining it. Wolfe said. Corbett spoke again. Then refine it further. Wolfe nodded slightly. The removal of Mr. Cress required knowledge of his condition, his location, and the presence of the physician. It required timing, the precise moment when attention was directed elsewhere. It required composure, the ability to act quickly and without error. Hale's gaze was steady now. You describe competence. Yes, Wolfe said. I describe intention. Drennan shifted in his chair. This is still speculation? No, Wolfe said. It is structure. I stepped in. Let's simplify, I said. Whoever took Cress knew he was upstairs, knew he'd regained consciousness, and knew we were all down here. That narrows it to someone who had reason to keep track of all three. Pike glanced at me. Or someone who had assistance. Yes, Wolfe said. But assistance introduces variables. Variables introduce unpredictability. This plan does not tolerate unpredictability. Corbett's eyes flicked briefly toward the door, then back to Wolfe. You are certain of that? Yes. Hale spoke quietly. Then you believe the person who took Cress is also the one who intends to kill Vardan? Yes, Wolfe said. And that person is in this room? Yes. Drennan laughed once, a short, sharp sound. Then accuse him. Wolfe did not respond immediately. He let the moment stretch, let the tension build until it had weight again. Not yet, he said. Pike's voice was tight. Why not? Because, Wolfe said, he is not finished. That shifted it again. Not just tension now, but anticipation. You think he will act again, Corbett said. I know he must, Wolfe said. The plan requires completion. Mr. Vardan must die. The narrative must be secured. Vardan, who had been silent, spoke now. And you intend to prevent that? Yes. How? Vardan demanded. Wolfe's gaze moved to him. By ensuring that when the attempt is made, it is both observed and understood. Drennan shook his head. You're talking in circles. No, Wolfe said. I'm constructing one. I moved a little, shifting my weight, keeping my eyes on them. Something was going to happen. You could feel it. The room had that quality, like the moment before a glass falls. Archie, Wolfe said. Yes, sir. You will secure the door. I went to the main door and turned the key. Not a dramatic gesture, but final enough. No one leaves, Wolfe said. Pike stood this time. This is intolerable. Sit down, Wolfe said. Pike hesitated, then sat. That told me more than anything else so far. Hale's eyes moved to the mantel, then to Vardan, then back to Wolfe. Corbett remained still. Drennan looked like he wanted to be anywhere else. Wolfe leaned back slightly. The error of timing, he said, has been corrected. Mr. Cress is no longer here. The first act has been restored to its intended state. Yes, that leaves only the second. No one spoke. Mr. Vardan, Wolfe said, you will remain where you are. Vardan nodded once, stiffly. And the rest of you, Wolfe said, will consider carefully what you do next, because the next action will identify you. The clock ticked. A second passed, then another, and then it happened. Not loud, not dramatic, just a movement. Hale's hand went inside his coat. I moved before he finished the motion. Not because I'm faster than thought, but because Wolfe had already done the thinking for me. When a man reaches inside his coat in a room where murder has just been discussed as a scheduled event, you don't wait to see if he's pulling out a handkerchief. I crossed the space between us in 2 strides and caught his wrist just as his fingers closed around whatever he had hidden there. He resisted, not wildly, so not desperately, but with the kind of controlled strength that told me this wasn't his first bad decision. Careful, I said. Saul was there an instant later, as if he had been waiting for the cue, which he probably had. He took Hale's other arm, efficient and silent. Between us, we made the question academic. Release me, Hale said, his voice still steady, but with something under it now. Not yet, I said. Archie, Wolfe said. Yes, sir. Disarm him. I did. It wasn't a gun. That would have been too simple. It was a small vial, no larger than my thumb, stoppered and wrapped in a piece of cloth. I held it up. Poison, I said. Probably, Wolfe said. Hale did not deny it. Drennan had half risen again, his chair scraping. Good God. Sit, Wolfe said. Drennan sat. Pike's eyes were fixed on the vial. That's your conclusion. Then, he said quietly. Hale intended to poison Varden. No, Wolfe said. That is your conclusion. Pike's gaze snapped to him. What else could it be? Wolfe's eyes moved to Hale. You will answer. Hale said nothing. Saul tightened his grip slightly. Not enough to hurt, just enough to remind. Hale exhaled once. It's not poison, he said. That would be a surprising development, I said. It's not for Varden, Hale said. Wolfe inclined his head. Then for whom? Hale's eyes flicked, just for a fraction of a second, toward Corbett. That was enough. Corbett did not move, but something in her expression shifted. So slight you might have missed it if you weren't looking for it. I was. Interesting, I said. Pike let out a short breath. This is getting absurd. No, Wolfe said. It is clarifying. He leaned forward slightly, and his gaze moving from Hale to Corbett and back again. Mr. Hale, Wolfe said, you have been cautious. You have spoken little. You have observed much. When action was required, you acted. You removed Mr. Cress. You now attempt to employ this vial, but your target is not Mr. Varden. Hale said nothing. Wolfe's voice did not change. Your target is Miss Corbett. That landed. Drennan stared at Hale. Pike's expression hardened. Corbett's eyes did not leave Wolfe. You're mistaken, Hale said. No, Wolfe said. Corbett spoke then, her voice calm but colder now. And why would he wish to poison me? Because, Wolfe said, you possess something he requires. Corbett's gaze did not waver. And what is that? The book, Wolfe said. Silence. Not the same silence as before. This one had edges. Pike turned to Corbett. You have it. Corbett did not answer. Drennan looked from one to the other, lost. This is insane. The book doesn't even exists, Wolfe said, and is in this room. I felt that one settle like a weight. Hale's jaw tightened. You're guessing. No, Wolfe said. I am concluding. He shifted slightly in his chair. Mr. Cress copied portions of the book, Wolfe said. He believed he could use them. That made him a liability. He was removed. The book itself was taken from him, but not by you. Hale's eyes flickered. No, Wolfe continued. You arrived later. You observed. You followed the crate. You came here. You waited. Pike spoke, his voice sharp. Waited for what? For Miss Corbett to reveal herself, Wolfe said. All eyes went to her. She sat very still, her hands folded in her lap, her expression composed. You assume a great deal, Mr. Wolfe, she said. Yes, Wolfe said, but not without cause. He continued, his voice steady, precise. Miss Corbett sued Mr. Varden. She lost, but she did not withdraw. She adapted. She required leverage. The book provides leverage. It contains information that can damage Mr. Varden and others. Corbett's gaze remained on him. If such a book existed. It does, Wolfe said, and you have it. Drennan shook his head. This is madness. No, Wolfe said. It is resolution. He turned his head slightly toward me. Archie. I understood. I moved. Not toward Hale, toward Corbett. She didn't run. That would have been beneath her. Instead, she rose smoothly as I approached, her hands still visible. Careful, Mr. Goodwin, she said. Always, I said. I stopped a step away. If you've got it, now would be a good time to share. She smiled faintly. And if I don't? Then we keep looking, I said. But we'll start with you. For a moment, nothing happened. Then she reached into her bag, slowly, carefully, and brought out a small red-bound book. She held it for a second, just long enough for everyone to see it, to understand what it was. Then she spoke. "You're right, Mr. Wolfe," she said. "I have it." The room seemed to contract. Hale stopped struggling. Pike leaned forward, his eyes fixed on the book. Drennan looked like he might be sick. Varden stood very still. Wolfe did not move. "Excellent," he said. No one breathed for a moment, and that was not an exaggeration. Even the clock on the mantel seemed to reconsider its profession. Corbett held the book as if it were nothing more than a slim inconvenience. "You've been very thorough, Mr. Wolfe," she said, almost flattering. "Accuracy is not flattery," Wolfe replied. "It is economy." She inclined her head slightly. "Then let us be economical. Yes, I have the book. Yes, I intended to use it. And yes, Mr. Hale has been persistent in his interest." Hale's voice was low, controlled. "You stole it from Cress." "No," she said. "I acquired it from him. He was not in a position to negotiate effectively." "That's a delicate way to put it," I said. She ignored me. "Mr. Cress made the mistake of believing he could manage something larger than himself. I corrected that. By arranging his removal," Wolfe said. "Yes," she said, "but not his death. That was never my intention." Hale laughed once, without humor. "You expect us to believe that?" "I don't expect you to believe anything," she said. "I expect you to listen." Wolfe nodded slightly. "Proceed." Corbett's gaze moved briefly to Varden, then back to Wolfe. "The book is valuable, not because of what it contains, but because of what it represents. Control, influence, leverage. Mr. Varden has spent years constructing a network of obligations. He believed he could manage it indefinitely." "And you disagreed," Wolfe said. "I observed," she said. "Such structures collapse. The only question is who benefits from the collapse." Pike leaned forward. "And you decided that should be you." "I decided it should not be him," she said. "That is not the same thing," Pike said. "No," she agreed. "But it is sufficient." Drennan spoke, his voice unsteady. "This is insane. Basil, do something." Varden had not moved. His eyes were on the book. "Give it to me," he said. Corbett did not. No." Hale shifted slightly in Saul's grip. "You think you can walk out of here with that?" "No," she said calmly. "I think none of us will walk out of here unchanged." "That's comforting," I said. Wolfe leaned forward a fraction. "Miss Corbett, you have admitted possession of the book and involvement in the removal of Mr. Cress. You have not yet addressed the planned murder of Mr. Varden." She looked at him. "I did not plan to murder Mr. Varden." Hale's head turned slightly toward her. "You're lying." "No," she said. "I intended to expose him." "With that?" Pike said, nodding at the book. "That would destroy more than him." "Yes," she said. "That is the point." Wolfe's eyes narrowed slightly. "And the telephone call?" She paused, just briefly. "Not mine." "Indeed," Wolfe said. I felt that shift again, not as sharp as before, but real. Hale spoke. "She's lying. She wanted him dead. That's the only way this works." "No," Wolfe said. Hale turned to him. "Then explain it." "I will," Wolfe said. He leaned back, his fingers steepled once more, his gaze moving over each of them in turn. "The plan," he said, "was constructed by a single mind. It required 2 acts, the elimination of Mr. Cress and the subsequent death of Mr. Varden. The book would serve as both motive and misdirection. Its discovery after Mr. Varden's death would suggest that he was the architect of certain improprieties, thereby redirecting scrutiny. Corbett watched him, her expression unreadable. Miss Corbett, Wolfe continued, intervened. She acquired the book and altered the plan. She intended exposure, not murder. That is a significant deviation. Pike frowned. Then who? Hale, I said. Wolfe inclined his head slightly. Yes. Hale went still. You arrived late, Wolfe said. You observed the movement of the crate. You recognized opportunity. The book, in Miss Corbett's possession, represented both threat and potential. You could not allow her to control it, nor could you allow Mr. Varden to survive long enough to recover it. Hale's voice was tight. You have no proof. I have sequence, Wolfe said. You followed the crate. You came here. You waited. When Mr. Cress revived and spoke, the plan was endangered. You removed him. You intended to complete the original design. With the vial, I said. Yes, Wolfe said, but not for Mr. Varden. Hale's eyes flickered. You intended to eliminate Miss Corbett, Wolfe said, and recover the book. Then with the book in your possession, you would proceed with Mr. Varden's death at a time and in a manner of your choosing. Silence. Hale said nothing. Corbett's gaze shifted to him just slightly. That is plausible, she said. Not merely plausible, Wolfe said. Inevitable. Drennan stared at Hale. Is that true? Hale did not answer. Pike's voice was cold. You've been playing all sides. Hale's lips tightened. You don't understand. No, Wolfe said. We do. He leaned forward again, just a fraction. The error of timing, he said, was not yours. It was imposed upon you. You adapted. You accelerated. You made your move prematurely. And in doing so, you revealed yourself. Hale's shoulders sagged slightly. Not defeat, exactly. Recognition. It was necessary, he said quietly. For what? Wolfe asked. For control, Hale said. Wolfe nodded. Yes. And control? Pursued without restraint. Becomes self-defeating. Hale looked at him. What now? Now, Wolfe said, you relinquish the vial. You remain where you are, and you will explain where Mr. Cress has been taken. Hale hesitated. Saul's grip tightened just enough. Hale exhaled. Basement, he said. Storage room. He's alive. I moved. Archie, Wolfe said. Yes, sir. Retrieve him. Carefully. I went. Saul releasing Hale only when I'd passed, his attention never leaving him. The basement was what you'd expect. Dim, orderly, and unused. The storage room was at the back. The door was closed. I opened it. Cress was there, tied to a chair, conscious but pale. He looked up as I entered. Good, he said weakly. You're still on schedule. More or less, I said. Let's get you upstairs. I untied him, got him on his feet, and brought him back up. And when we re-entered the library, nothing had changed except everything. I guided Cress to a chair. He sank into it, breathing carefully. Wolfe looked at him, then at Hale, then at Corbett, then at Varden. The narrative, Wolfe said, is now complete. No one spoke. Wolfe settled back, his work done. Mr. Varden, he said, you will contact the police. You will provide them with the book. You will explain its contents, and you will accept the consequences. Varden stared at him. You would destroy me. No, Wolfe said. You have done that yourself. I merely decline to prevent it. He turned his head slightly. Mr. Hale will be charged with attempted murder and abduction, Miss Corbett with conspiracy and unlawful detention. Mr. Pike and Mr. Drennan will be examined for their roles in the matters recorded in the book. Pike said nothing. Drennan looked like a man who had just discovered gravity. Corbett held Wolfe's gaze. And you, Mr. Wolfe? I will have dinner, Wolfe said. That was that. Later, back at the brownstone, with the house restored to its proper silence and Fritz's efforts on the table, Wolfe sat with his eyes half closed, considering something that was not the food. "Archie," he said. "Yes, sir." "Control," he said, "is a fiction sustained by ignorance. When knowledge intrudes, control dissolves." I cut into my steak. "That's a cheerful thought." "It is an accurate one," he said. I chewed, swallowed, and reached for the wine. "Well," I said, "at least dinner arrived after the murder." The next morning arrived without asking permission, which is the way mornings behave when they've got nothing to apologize for. From the brownstone had returned to its usual condition, quiet, orderly, and faintly disapproving of everything outside its walls. I was at my desk with the morning papers, which had decided to pretend the world made sense. It didn't, but they were trying. There was mention of Basil Varden, of course. There always is when a man who has spent years arranging other people's secrets finds his own rearranged for him. Wolfe came down from the plant rooms precisely on schedule, took his place, and accepted coffee from Fritz with the solemnity it deserved. "Well," I said, folding the paper, "it's official. Varden has discovered the disadvantages of documentation." Wolfe grunted. He cultivated them. "True," I said, "but most people don't expect the harvest to arrive all at once." Wolfe sipped his coffee. "Expectation is a poor defense against consequence." I leaned back. Hale talked. "Yes." "Enough to keep him occupied for a long time." "Yes." "And Corbett." "She will fare better," Wolfe said. "Her intentions, while not admirable, were less terminal." "She only kidnapped a man and planned to ruin another," I said. "Practically civic-minded." Wolfe ignored that. "Mr. Kress?" "Recovering," I said. "He'll live. Probably wishes he hadn't tried to improve his position." "Ambition," Wolfe said, "is frequently miscalibrated." I nodded. "Pike and Drennan are suddenly very interested in legal counsel." "They should be," Wolfe said. I tapped the paper. "And the book, that's the centerpiece." "Yes. They're calling it a ledger." "It is." "Not of money," I said. "No." I studied Wolfe for a moment. "You knew, didn't you? Us early." "I knew the structure," Wolfe said. "The details confirmed it." "Walk me through it," I said. "From the beginning. I like to admire the machinery after it stopped moving." Wolfe set his cup down. The essential element was the anomaly. A body delivered alive when it was intended to be dead. That is not carelessness. It is interruption. "Meaning someone interfered," I said. "Yes," Wolfe said. "Miss Corbett. She acquired the book from Mr. Kress and altered the plan. She intended exposure, not murder. That introduced instability." "And Hale stepped in," I said. "Precisely," Wolfe said. He recognized the opportunity created by that instability. He lacked the original plan, but he understood its value. He sought to restore its intent while redirecting its outcome. "By taking the book," I said. "Yes," Wolfe said. "And eliminating both obstacles, Mr. Kress and Miss Corbett." I nodded. "And Varden." "Ultimately," Wolfe said. I considered that. "The phone call," I said. "The woman." Wolfe's lips moved slightly. "Miss Corbett. Even though she says it wasn't." "Yes," Wolfe said. "Her denial was incomplete. She did not plan the murder, but she understood the plan. The call was an attempt to accelerate intervention. She wished to force the matter into the open before Hale could act." "That's risky," I said. "Yes," Wolfe said. "But she had already chosen risk." I leaned back. "And the crate?" "A device," Wolfe said, "to transport and to misdirect. It placed the problem within Mr. Varden's control while simultaneously removing his control." "And the note," I said. "The error of timing." "A message from Hale to himself," Wolfe said. "Or rather, is a justification. He recognized the failure and committed to correction. I whistled softly. That's cold. Yes. I looked at him. You said something last night about control being a fiction. It is, Wolfe said. Varden thought he had it, I said. He had influence, Wolfe said. He mistook it for control. Corbett thought she could take it, I said. She mistook possession for control. Hale thought he could seize it, I said. He mistook action for control. I nodded slowly. And Crest thought he could use it. He mistook access for control. I smiled faintly. That's a crowded field of mistakes. Yes, Wolfe said. And you? I asked. Wolfe lifted his coffee cup again. I do not concern myself with control. I concern myself with understanding. That sounds safer, I said. It is more accurate, Wolfe said. I picked up the paper again, glanced at the headlines, and then set it aside. So that's it, I said. No murder. Wolfe looked at me. On the contrary, he said. Several. Merely deferred. I considered that. You mean reputations? Yes. And futures. Yes. And appetites, I said. Wolfe's eyes narrowed slightly. Explain. Well, I said, Varden's appetite for leverage is gone. Corbett's appetite for control is reduced. Hale's appetite for risk has been corrected. And Cress's appetite for ambition has been adjusted. Wolfe regarded me for a moment, then nodded once. A satisfactory inventory. Fritz entered then, bearing the promise of lunch, and the room shifted back into its proper alignment. Whatever had been disturbed had settled again, not perfectly, but sufficiently. I took my seat, picked up my fork, and looked at Wolfe. You know, I said, for a case that started with a body arriving before the murder, it turned out pretty well. Wolfe lifted his napkin. It turned out, he said, as it was compelled to. I cut into the meal. You're going to say something philosophical, aren't you? Wolfe paused, just briefly. Men who attempt to arrange the future, he said, inevitably reveal the present. I chewed that over with the food. Yeah, I said. And sometimes the present bites back. Wolfe did not reply. He didn't need to.